Welcome to the Making Money in the Music Business podcast, where we share insightful views on a variety of topics in the music industry that can help you make more money from your music business. And now, here are your hosts, Dr. William E. Smith and Kenya McGuire Johnson.
Hey, Kenya.
Will.
We're back.
I get to see you. I don't get to
right?
see you when we talk.
I'm usually looking at my computer screen and my desk and just imagining.
I imagine your face. But we still have people who are just listening to us right now,
Right.
those of you, and we love you and we want you to continue to listen. But what's so exciting is that we also now are available on YouTube. We have video. So you not only get to hear us if you want to come and look at us and look at our guests. And we bring some wonderful guests. We bring some stars. So it's really worth your time to check out both.
Exactly.
To check out both. So,
Exactly.
but we are back with our first guest of the new season.
Mm-hmm.
And we always pre-record these guys. So there's a lot that's happening in the world at the time at which we're recording this. We're not going to get too heavy in that, but just understand if you hear some references, understand that when you see this you're not seeing it at the time that it was recorded. So,
right. Exactly.
But so Will, you're good though. You're good.
I'm good. I'm blessed. I made it to 2021. Some people didn't. I'm thankful.
I know.
Just what are you gonna say? You just enjoy being here and doing the stuff you love, doing what you can do, and try to help advance the football to the next 10 yards. Hopefully get to the end zone.
Yep, indeed. So, well, before we introduce, there's this beautiful, handsome gentleman on the screen. So those of you who are watching our YouTube are like, well, who's he? We're gonna get there.
I know, right?
But we always start our shows with our music tip of the week. So, Will, what's up?
Well, my music tip, and of course, there's a shameless plug to follow, but the music tip is to take a music history class. And it's important for you all to broaden your horizons and to create outside of your comfort zone. So if you only listen to the music that you listen to, or even if you like that music, but you don't even know the history of it, if you take a music history class, you can learn about the styles and cultures and motivations behind those sounds and the forms and lyrics. And then you can broaden your creative palette and to make your music more meaningful and inspiring. So our shameless plug is right now I'm teaching a winter 4 winter classes, and jazz history, rock music history, Black contemporary music, and music of the African diaspora. But I'll be teaching those in the summer, so at Bowie State University. So if you all want to take some classes in the summer, those classes will be back up for 2 summer sessions, and you all can take them during the summer sessions and learn about different styles of music.
That's awesome. Good tip, promo, plug, all of that wrapped in.
All of that wrapped into one.
So I will say that's the one, or one of actually several silver linings, is the virtual access that we have on things that we otherwise may not have access to. So, well, thank you, sir. Thank you. All right, we're going to bring in our guest, and it just hit me that the way that we probably have edited this video, you may not see our guest yet, because I think the way this records, he won't be really seen until he talks, right? I think that's how. Yeah. So. This is new. So, I'm tripping over to make sure I'm gonna be perfect at this by the time we have our 100th guest. I'll be really good with the video part. But, it's funny, social media, I'm going to bring in the guest in a minute, but social media has I have a love-hate relationship with social media. I hate to use the word hate. I have a love dislike. Maybe that's what we should say. Love,
but you're real good at it.
Oh my goodness. That's the love. That's the love side. But the dislike is that it's very consuming, and it takes a lot of energy, and I'm an energy manager. I don't know. I attempt to be a time manager, but I'm more of an energy manager. So anyway, this guest that we have today, I actually met via social media, and I have different, you connect with different people on IG and Facebook and so forth. I feel a little bit more connected in the IG world for whatever reason, but most of my fans and supporters are on the Facebook world. So I kind of have to straddle between. But personally, I really enjoy the IG world. And so our guest today, I got hip to his music and what he's doing and what he's supporting by IG, and just the support he's given me and my music. And I'm like, let me go check this. This is what I do. I go stalk people. It's like, let me go check out who are these different artists. And we're really big on our podcast and making sure that we bring in to you people from all walks of music industry, right, and in all genres, really. It appears, I think most of our guests fall in that jazz, soul, progressive space. But I have decided this season, I have a couple of people that I'm inviting that are a little outside of that. But this gentleman, I'm going to let him tell his story, because this is how we always do our show, to tell his story. But I really loved that I saw something more progressive coming from him. When I see musicians who are experimenting a bit, who are testing the boundaries, who get the attention of other jazz artists, that lets me know, this is probably worth our time to hear their story and how they're surviving in this industry, because so many people who listen to our podcast are developing artists and people who are just attempting to figure out how they can create something and some kind of way monetize it. Maybe not get rich off of it, but at least get something out of it. So I feel like this guest may be able to contribute to that conversation. So I'm going to let him tell his story, because again, I met him on IG. So I'm still putting the pieces and the dots together, but I look forward to hearing more of his story. So welcome, Todd Moultrie. Welcome from Jazzgroupiez.
Hey, Kenya. Thank you, Will. Good to be here.
Yeah,
First show of the year.
I know. You are our first guest of the year. You should feel incredibly special.
I am. 2020 is behind me now.
Hey.
It's behind
Starting
you.
today.
Right. Oh, yeah. 2021 she's kicking off pretty strong too.
Yeah.
She busted in the door. What you talking about?
She said, don't be messing with me.
We need to put some hands. She need to use some hand sanitizer.
Exactly.
It's like, where's her mask?
Right.
Exactly.
But no, I'm thankful to be here. My story is pretty different. How I got here. The name Jazzgroupiez. I started producing in college. It was something I always wanted to do growing up. Since high school, I always wanted to make beats. I always wanted to make beats. But I grew up I'm from Texas, originally from Beaumont, Texas, a little small town. I was right between Houston and Louisiana. So I got a little bit of the Southern hip hop and then the Louisiana bounce and the jazz and everything. And my dad was a gospel singer and a preacher. So I was exposed to a lot of music. He really tried to push jazz on me when I was a kid. But as a kid, everything our parents say is cool, we try to do the opposite, So I knew jazz was there. I knew about Coltrane and Miles, and he loved Wes Montgomery. But, hip hop was my thing. I grew up 80s, 90s. So it was all about making beats and hip hop beats. And so I started producing. I got my first placement, I'd say 2000. I don't know if you're familiar with, this is all in the hip hop urban music world too. So there's a guy by the name of Mr. Collie Park and the Yin Yang Twins. And back in the day, you carry around these beat CDs. So everywhere I went, I had 10 beat CDs. And I saw Yin Yang Twins in the club. I heard they were in town in Dallas, and I was on spring break, and I gave them a CD. And the next morning, their manager / producer, Mr. Collie Park, called me and said, "Hey, I need every one of those beats. How much you charge?" And I was like,
"Oh!"
And I said, I was on my way to work at Kinko's, and I said, $200.
Right.
And him being the stand-up guy he is, he said, "I'll give you $500, and I need every beat on the CD." And so that was my start, from a guy doing beats at his mom and dad's back living room or area, to a guy in Atlanta calling me wanting every beat on my beat CD. So that was that gave me the momentum to keep going.
Wow.
And from there, I about a couple of months later, I ran into another guy that was connected to Master P, and they were at a video shoot, and he had one of my beat CDs and played it for Master P, and they recorded a song on it for his 504 Boys album. And that really catapulted me. I was like, life changing for me at the time. A 21-year-old college student working with Master P, still staying at my parents' house. And so from there, I started meeting a few people in the Houston area. There was Matthew Knowles started a Sanctuary Urban imprint, or he partnered with Sanctuary Urban back in early 2000, and I was working with an artist there. So I was able to work at Music World with Matthew Knowles and his engineers and production team. So that was an amazing experience. But I'm doing all this, and I'm still, I'm out of college, and I'm living in my car, and I'm thinking, I'm now, so for me, I just graduated college. I was like, what is going on? I mean, I'm doing all this work. I have all these connections, but it's really not paying the bills. And I was trying to navigate everything in the music industry on my own. I had no manager, just a bunch of people from neighborhoods that say, hey, I know this guy from Beaumont that does beats. And I got burned out. I just got burned out, and I put my degree to work, and I just got a job, and I got rid of all of my music equipment in 2004 or 5 maybe. I had no music equipment, and I was just done. I was done with it. And so, fast forward, my dad died about 5 years after that. And so I really got into jazz after he passed away. That was like the way I connected with him. I really, I mean, there's like, and at the time I fell in love with jazz. Now I'm like, approaching 30s, and I'm maturing too, so I'm appreciating it. And I just became a fan of jazz, like a huge fan. And I got transferred to Nebraska through my job, and so it was boring. And so I would just, I found out about Robert Glasper just through looking on iTunes for different jazz artists. And I knew he was playing in St. Louis. And so I took a flight and I flew to St. Louis to see Robert Glasper. This was before Black Radio, when he was playing.
This was when Robert was Robert.
This was when he was doing traditional jazz. I think Aya had just came out with Music Soul Child, and I think Chrisette Michelle is on there too. But that had just came out. So I went to see him, and it changed my life. I mean, seeing him play, at a small venue in St. Louis, it changed my life, and it really changed how I looked at jazz and what can be done with jazz. And that's how I started. That's how I started Jazzgroupiez. It was only a fan site. It was never intended for me to make music or to do beats. It was only a fan site to show like this other side of jazz. Because my whole thought is, what are we going to do for the next generation to make them want to do jazz? What makes it relevant now for a 19-year-old and an 18-year-old, or a kid in high school? There was nothing, outside of like people like Robert Glasper. But when I was at his shows, the jazz purists, they would say, this isn't jazz. This isn't jazz, he's got, Jay Dilla beats and things like that. I mean, I was there because I started following Robert Glasper around. I went to Chicago Jazz Fest. I go to Seattle, I had nothing but time. I was living in Nebraska, nothing to do. So my hobby was flying to go see jazz. I go to New York and I just spend a week in New York, and I would stay up all night in New York and just go to all the jazz clubs. And I was a fan. I had no agenda but to be a fan,
You have said so. I know, Will. I'm gonna let you said a lot of golden nuggets.
I got a bunch of pins. I gotta.
Oh, jeez. Okay, Will.
Right,
so now, Will, now you see what I look like when I'm all like, oh.
Yeah, I know, right? I'm just imagining it normally, but yeah, I see it now. No, I have a bunch of questions. First off, I'm being a jazz musician. I love the fact that you got into jazz and you're diehard, and that's awesome. That's I support. I want people to have that same love and support for the music. But I want to sort of go back before I even get into that tangent. When you sold your beats for $500, did you? What was it? was it a work for hire sale, or did you retain any type of royalty, authorship, composer, anything on
So
that deal?
with Collie Park, he's stand-up guy, right?
Good.
He read my whole situation. He was like, this guy's green. He knows nothing.
Right.
I was 20
Right.
years old, 21 years old,
Mhm.
he's got one of the hottest singles in the country through the Ying Yang Twins. I think it was like that Ah Ya Ya song. So he said,
Wow.
you know what? I'm going to give you, he said, you signed up for your publishing, ASCAP
Right.
BMI. I was like, no. He said, do that. I'm gonna give you some points, and he gave me my points. Now, fast forward, right? I'm not gonna mention any names, but as I started working with more cutthroat, entities in the southern region, I've been on those conference calls where they say he should be doing this for free. Why is he demanding money? Because I had a situation where someone called me. I'm not gonna mention names. He kind of put it together, but this big name artist, my biggest break ever, and he said, "Hey, we already recorded to the beat right off the beat CD, but he doesn't want to pay you." And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, and I can hear him in the background saying he should want to work for free. Who is he?
Wow.
He has no name.
Right.
And I for some reason I stood my ground and I
Good
said, well, I don't want to do it. And he hung up on me. And the next day he called me back.
Of course, because the music's too strong.
Yeah, he called me back and said, we already recorded to it. Hey, look, we'll do this, XYZ. I didn't get publishing on that.
You didn't?
I didn't. I got a lot of upfront money though.
Okay, so they bought the beat.
Yeah, they bought the beat outright. So I didn't get any publishing, and it was good. It was good because the album. It was the last album of an era. It was like how an artist is like at the especially in hip hop, they're at that last part of their prime. Right. So it was fine. It was actually more beneficial probably at the time. But I hate that now. With streaming, I never saw that streaming would be around.
Yep.
That publishing would be here.
Yeah. So, and that's the reason I jump back to that is because this is for Making Money in the Music Business podcast. I want the listeners to understand. Always get your points. Mm-hmm. I had a frat brother of mine who he sold a beat to Aaliyah, and he had got 20,000 for it. I mean, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But how many times is the song being played now?
Thank you.
It's, and I don't know if he got points on it, but I doubt it because at that same situation, he was sort of new to the game. Mm-hmm. But that's what I want people to understand, because we have a lot of people making beats right now.
Yes, a lot.
And they're selling beats. They're trying to lease beats. They're trying to do all these things, and whenever something becomes big, you always want your points. You never know when stuff is going to change down the line. We don't know what's coming up in the industry 20 years
Absolutely.
So get your points. But perfect. So I'm gonna let you take your thing, Kenya, because I got other questions.
No, I do too. That was really, and I mean, it's what you just said, and what you said about the artist saying, "Oh, he should want to be with us. He should want it. It's we should want to do this. It should be free." And I think I've been really thinking about artistry lately, obviously, given everything going on, and I think we'll have to do an episode on this, but we're being so used as artists right now.
Yes. Oh my
God. I mean, that's an episode unto itself, is the amount of how much we're getting used for it almost feels, and I don't want to use, but just think about the movie Hustle and Flow. That's all I'm gonna say.
Yeah.
I feel often that artists get pimped, really, like for real. And so I think it's really important that you bring this up, because I know too many artists who do things. What's happened is we've created a culture of free.
Yes.
And we're really promoting a culture of free now. Like, it's getting ridiculous. People don't even connect the dots that they pay their $9 a month on Spotify and I should be free, or I go on YouTube and I can listen for free. So why now you want me to pay to watch you play? And it's like, so anyway, that's another episode. But well, okay. So so the jazz thing. And I'm so glad that, one of the things you said that I think is really, really important, and I want to highlight this, you had to take a minute away. You said you shut things down, and you became a fan again. And it brought, and Robert Glasper is such a good example of allowing yourself to kind of get into things, because his music, just, it takes you on so many different journeys. And listen, I've been listening to Robert Glasper since, I think it was like 98. He was still 19.
Oh, yeah. See, I wasn't even hip then.
Yeah, because my dad was a jazz. Oh, we got sounds going. Oh, turn that off. Was a jazz musician, and so I was introduced to jazz as a kid, and so I've always followed jazz. And so Robert Glasper was introduced to me. Like I said, he was 19. I don't remember how old I was. I think I was in my late 20s. But yeah, and so becoming a fan again, that got you back ingrained. So then what was the click that was like, okay,
all right, here's
I
where
want to get myself back into this.
So here's where it gets really good. So for about 8 years, right, I didn't make any music. I had no desire to make music. People would call me for beats. I would ignore them, my old connections. I didn't want any part of it. Because when I was doing the music in the South and just being that hip hop world, I know that wasn't what I wanted to do. I was making jazz beats. The beat I sold to Master P, I started that as a jazz beat. Nobody wanted it. So I took everything off except for the drums and I added some other stuff. And that's the beat he got. He's got a jazz beat on the 504 on the 504 Boys album. So I just really got into jazz, right? I mean, it's 8 years, nothing, no equipment. And I was by then, I'm back in Houston, Texas again, living. And I was like, okay, I never really got in the Houston jazz scene. And I just started Googling. I looked for artists in Houston to go see. And I found this guy, Stephen Richard, the saxophonist in Houston, an amazing saxophonist. He's so amazing. When Grover Washington Jr. came to Houston to play, Stephen was there. Stephen wrote Grover Washington Jr. a letter, and Grover Washington Jr. came to Houston for a show and brought Stephen on stage to play.
Oh, wow.
When he was in high school.
Wow.
So long story short, I went to a show and I was just taking pictures and posting on my Jazzgroupiez IG. And me and Steven struck up a relationship. He had a regular gig at the House of Blues on, I think, Thursday nights. And so me and him just kind of started talking, because he was more interested in the marketing side. Like, hey, I see you posting our stuff. We're getting engagement. People are coming to the show. People are asking about us now. Who are you? Do you do marketing? I was like, no, I don't do marketing. I'm just some guy on Instagram.
I'm just some guy on Instagram.
Right.
Yeah.
So then, like, about a few months later, I saw Steven a few times at the House of Blues, and I was at a show and I said, what if I do a Houston jazz album and make beats again and make a jazz album fused with the Houston, Texas, Southern culture, but make it jazz and hip hop with people like Steve playing on top of beats. And so I went and bought a drum machine. A laptop, and a keyboard, and I just started making beats again at home. My wife thought I was crazy, and just buying all these keyboards all of a sudden, and I just started making beats again. And I made one. I did an album that kind of just test the waters. It was nothing but me making beats. It was my first ever EP called Melanizance, and it was just 4 songs, really short, just beats, samples, chopped up samples. And it got a reception and it gave me a little more momentum. And then that's when I had the courage to say, hey, Steve, I was so nervous. This guy's amazing. I'm just a beat maker. And I said, hey, Steve, I got this idea. Here's a couple of beats. And he called me like ASAP. He's like, yes, brother, I'm there. Let's go.
Right.
And that gave me all the momentum to keep going with Jazzgroupiez. And now I transitioned to Jazzgroupiez, the producer,
Okay. So you still do the fan site, right?
Yeah, I still do it's kind of all in one. I've been thinking about separating the two, but I like it the way it is now. Jazzgroupiez, the IG page is basically just, an ode to jazz, but I still throw my music in there. Jazz, hip hop, soul, jazz, it's all kind of meshed into one now.
Awesome.
But yeah, so that's where we are now, and then now I've expanded to what happened in 2020 was so amazing. During the quarantine, I had a lot of free time, and I said, let me try to find different markets and market outside of America, the US. So I put a IG ad for one of my songs that was like a year old, and I did South Africa, I think Italy and Canada, a bunch of different countries, and it just blew up in South Africa, like overwhelming response.
Listen,
in South
African music, progressive jazz, soul, like it's at another level, and people are sleeping on South African, even South African house, deep house.
Yes.
The influence of the jazz and the
I'm sleeping because I don't even know.
Hey man, I'm telling. Hey, I never knew anything about house music. I knew it was there, but I never really got into it until when I got this momentum from South Africa. I had a few house artists reach out to me, and so I started listening to it. What they call it, soulful house, and it's kind of jazzy. It's kind of like jazzy neo soul, but house beats. It doesn't have to be that repetitive drum pattern always, you know. And I was like, this stuff is amazing. Where have I been?
Amazing.
You know?
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
it's amazing. I actually have connected with a South African producer, and so the music he has sent me, I'm like, what?
Yes.
So
so I'm working on a house project right now with Oscar Imbo from South Africa, and he just released the album there. So I mean, that's stuff that I've never thought in a million years I'd be involved in.
Yeah.
Oh, that's dope.
Yeah. I have a question.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Will. No, Will, go ahead.
Okay. Well, no, I mean, I
was following up on, but remind me, I want to talk, because you mentioned the IG ad, and I want to go back there.
Yeah, talk about ads. Yeah, I got you. But no, because I had been in South Africa back in 96 maybe. Yeah, I think it was 96. But yeah, no, it was a totally different world and scene then. You know, Mandela had just gotten out and all that stuff. But yeah, no, I totally hear you on the beat making side, and taking that pause, because that's actually exactly what I did. I mean, I'm still, I've transitioned out of that into production music and trailer music at the moment, but I'm a jazz musician. That's just what I am, and I'm going to always be a jazz musician and eventually get back to playing. But I took a break, from playing jazz, because it was the same thing. You get burned out. You do everything. I had been putting all the marketing, writing all the songs, booking the group, touring, just the whole 9 yards, and you do get burned out. So your comeback is it's sort of affirming. And when you talk about you found a love for it again, and that's encouraging to me. It sort of affirms my process. So just hearing other people's situations. So that's I loved hearing that. So what are your future plans after COVID? Because everybody's thinking after COVID. We're just coping with COVID right now. But what are your plans that you foresee or hope to be doing with the group, and then also with the page?
Yeah, so my the first thing then after COVID opens up is I'm going to South Africa. So we just released on November 20th. I released a joint album, joint EP with a saxophonist and a producer from South Africa called The Crossover. That has been my most successful record I've ever put out, and it was something that me and him just kind of almost in a way rushed, because I had COVID, so I got sick. I was in the hospital. So when I basically got better, I said, we have to finish this album. So we didn't have much time, and we just kind of put it out there. And I've done interview with just about every radio station in Johannesburg. We have one more coming up next week. Apple Music reached out to him, and Apple Music South Africa reached out to him. They added us to 3 playlists. Wow. And we had a meeting with them, and they were just like, what can we do to help you? We like what you guys are doing. This crossover concept is crazy. A US musician and a South African musician, because they are very proud over there about their culture. So they were like, we like this. What can we do? So we're going to do a crossover playlist now, and kind of get artists that fall in that crossover brand on we're going to submit it to Apple Music and see if we can get our curated playlist. And then I want to go to South Africa, and we're going to record a full-length crossover album. And I want to try to get some musicians together and do some dates in South Africa. That's my dream. That's kind of a lofty dream right now.
No, it's listen,
Yeah.
you're on the path. I mean,
Right.
you're right. You're literally
Yeah.
on the
Yes.
path.
So that's
Yeah.
my I've been kind of tapping all the musicians that have worked on all the projects with me,
Good.
because some are in Thailand, one is in Philadelphia, so they're all going to have to come together
Wow.
and try to meet us in South Africa and then put some dates together. So that's very aggressive goal, but
Awesome.
2021 makes you just got to shoot for the stars right now.
There you go.
That is, you know what, Todd?
Beautiful.
I could feel, I'm so glad that we, connected and for you to be able to share this, because really seriously, you've said so many things, and I've been attempting to look down and jot some stuff down that are both soulful, meaning kind of the soul of being an artist, and, talking about taking the breaks and needing to get renewed and rejuvenated and excited again about music. You mentioned about you had something in you that told you, because this was a major spark that came to you to do an IG ad,
Mhm.
which seems like it was the beginning of getting all of this kind of South African and these international things. So I know people listening will be like, okay, what's that IG ad? What did you say? What did you do? So did you go and did you learn, like, okay, this is what I need to do to make sure that my IG ad reaches? Or how did you go about creating that? Because this is a critical part to the music business side of things.
Yes. So
Yeah.
I actually, the artist that I work with now in South Africa, he's like, man, you showed me so much about the power of those IG ads if you do it the right way. So I've wasted a lot of money on IG ads. I'll just I'll put that out there first, But
Okay, good. Thank
this
you.
is a LLC, so I try to write it off as much as possible.
Exactly.
So I can test a little bit and feel okay about it. But this ad that I did was right maybe about March, and kind of right at the beginning of the quarantine, and there was a song I did called Hallelujah, and it was an emotional song, and I kind of made a post, kind of catering to all of our emotional needs right now at that time. Everybody, the quarantine was new to everybody, and it just basically was the song, and I forget what I put on there, but it was some heartfelt kind of mushy words, but the song just took off. I think people, and it was a great song. The thing about that song is I was with a previous digital distributor, and they STEM, and they basically said they were getting rid of all their low performing artists.
Right.
So they took all my music off STEM, and I had been debating for a while to put that song back, on DistroKid, and I had just put it back on DistroKid. So I said, I'm going to promote it again. It was a year old, and it just took off. I don't know. I still can't. It's just something divine with the connection I have with South Africa, because even I communicate with so many people from South Africa now, and it's such a cultural connection that I can't explain really.
Wow.
I tell my wife all the time, I was like, I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I mean, I'm thankful. I'm so thankful. I'm so blessed. And it's been such a cultural opening for me, and such a fulfilling for my soul. But I just can't really put my hand on how just this one country just took a huge liking to my music. And so now I'm like, I owe them now. So I feel like now I'm going to try to cater to their needs,
Yeah.
It's because it's time.
Yes.
Right.
Yes, exactly. Right.
It's the time. And that's the best place for your sound and for your music to receive it. So
and it found you. I just think this is so important. I mean, this is actually, Will had just said this to you about how you are confirming things for him, you're confirming things for me, in that when we, you didn't go and target South Africa, right? So you didn't make this IG ad to target South Africa. It sounds like you made the IG ad and just kind of put it out. I don't know if you did any special analytics and
nothing.
No, right.
No,
okay.
Nothing. Just threw it out there. I pay attention to analytics a lot now, but at the time I just threw it out there. It was really just on a whim, like, hey, I just had this idea, like, hey, I'm going to make an IG ad for different, because what really, one of the things that made me do it is because I had really focused only on the US audience. I had done a lot of IG ads, but I was really, it's like, you want your hometown to love you, and it was kind of that thing where I'm going to do ads in Houston, Atlanta, all the cool cities in America. And then I just said, no, let me step outside and see what I can do globally.
Right.
And that was my confirmation. And the other thing I want to really, because for people listening, especially younger musicians, when I was first producing, it was all about making money, and I probably approached a lot of people in the wrong way that wanted beats. It was like, hey, how much you want to pay for this beat? Or, it was all about making money because it was coming out of the 90s and money was falling out the sky for hip hop. And then it started drying up in the 2000s, right? And so, but when I took that break, it was just to connect with music was so amazing. And when I started back, I had, a career. I was, I didn't, I wasn't sleeping in my car anymore. So I was doing it completely for my soul. And I didn't care. Nobody could come in that room when I was making beats and say they didn't like it. I wouldn't change nothing. I was doing what I wanted. I was doing exactly what I wanted. I didn't care what anybody said. I didn't care if I had one person listening. I was still going to do it tomorrow. I was going to make another beat tomorrow. And I think that's what you have to find. Every musician has to find that connection to their music and their soul and do it for that purpose. Everything else will fall in line because you're moving for the right reasons.
Exactly.
You're communicating with people for the right reason. They can see that when you communicate with them.
Absolutely.
Amen. That's powerful.
That is powerful. And I think we're getting close to ending our time. Can I ask you, with the IGI, did you actually play then just a clip of the music?
Yes, I played a clip of the music. I played, it was 59 seconds, I think, is the limit on this regular post. So I just did the 59-second ad. It was a picture. I had just went to Washington, D.C. a few months ago. So it was like a monument in D.C. And I did some little weird filters and it was nothing, nothing fancy at all.
Well, I wanted to make sure I said that because, again, listeners and musicians, even if you can't figure out how to do what he just said, Fiverr for literally $5, you could get somebody to put that together. But I think it's important to I know I'm about to be releasing things and I'm going to be doing things differently than what I've done in the past because we're in a different world. And so, understanding their passion, but also understanding that it's trial and error, it's experimenting, it's seeing what sticks, what doesn't. I think we're going to have to really fall into that more and be willing as artists to allow our art to speak louder than necessarily the business. And I know that's a little odd coming from Making Money in the Music Business podcast, but as Will and I always promote, this is more than about the making the money. It's what you just said, the soul, and the intention behind it. So
your purpose. That's great.
Thank you. This has been fantastic. Yeah. If you could just share so people can follow you on IG and wherever else.
Right. Your handles.
Just share your handles with
everything.
People.
Is Jazzgroupiez with a Z at the end, all one word, Jazzgroupiez. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, it's all Jazzgroupiez, just /Jazzgroupiez. There's also jazzgroupiez.com. It's where you can buy I have vinyl for sale and different merchandise and drumsticks and custom Jazzgroupiez things that that you can also look at as well.
That is awesome. Are you still doing this? This is it, I promise. Are you doing music full time at this point, or are you still balancing, making sure, doing another job?
Yeah, I still have it. Somebody's gonna have to really help me out to lead my career, But so I do music part time. I say full time because I probably do music just as much as I work. When I get when I get the kids to sleep, that's what I do. I work on music all night.
So again, those of you who think, I only have to do music, no. You've reached South Africa and, you have, I think you're going to be there in a minute. We just got to open up some,
we had the number. I had 2 #1 jazz albums in South Africa. My last 2 releases made it to the #1 jazz album on the Apple Music Top 200. That's awesome. All, for me, coming from where I come from, that's all the confirmation I needed,
Absolutely. And so you're doing it while still, doing other things. I think we really got to get out of this mindset that I got to only be performing or only be producing. It really, you can be multiple things and it can happen. So, well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you guys. Thank you. This was amazing.
Oh,
special.
good. Yeah, this was fun. This was fun.
Very confirming all the way around.
Yeah, thank you.
Will and I, we already going down back to our drawing board.
Yeah, man. You know, just keep, you know,
good.
just keep throwing it out there until something catches. You know, just keep
Yeah.
going.
Yep.
You know,
Absolutely.
don't
There we
stop.
go.
I'm no better than anybody. I just never stop.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay. All right. Well, Will, that is
All
it
right.
for, so we will be back next week. We've got a lot of artists. I don't even know the sequence at this point. People just book. We got booking link down. I'm like, I don't know what happened, but it's good stuff.
Yep. All good stuff. All right. We'll talk to y'all next week.
All right. You guys take care. Okay. Bye.
Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed this podcast episode. Please subscribe to our podcast on your podcast player and leave us a rating and review. Also, please leave us a comment on our Facebook or Instagram page. And if you would like to contact us about a specific topic, you can email us at 3mbpodcast@gmail.com.